Right.
Hey.
Hey there.
What's up, everybody?
Wednesday, here we are. Another
Man.
episode of Pandemic. I'm going to
Another
call it Pandemic episode. No quarantine, but Pandemic. But
right. We're
two
social
things discussing.
distancing.
Social distancing, the virtual style. Get it popping.
Exactly.
Get it popping.
We got to do it. We want to stay healthy because if anybody else out there knows, these numbers are rising like crazy right now. These COVID numbers.
Listen, they are. It's getting crazy. I don't know what to make of that.
Yeah, it's a bit.
I don't know if that means we just keep going and you just heard it or what, but the numbers are climbing. And it could be because there's more testing available too. We always said, with more tests comes more, it's going to be more people probably testing positive or asymptomatic or whatever the case may be. So, hey, we'll see how this goes. Everybody just try to stay as healthy and safe as you can. Hopefully everybody voted yesterday, did the right thing on that. You guys, we're here, pandemic ready. There's a lot going on in sports, regardless of everything that's going on across the country, across the globe. There's a lot of big things that are kind of revolving in the world of sports. And one of those things is possibly we'll talk, and we have a special guest. We have Cassandra Cousineau, Sportsnista, coming in, talking about UFC 250, and she actually went. And we'll talk into that. But we'll also talk about Reggie Bush. Apology tours. My bad errors right now are all coming out the woodwork in the world of sports.
And who's not part of these? Because we're seeing a lot of people come out, a lot of people in support of Black Lives Matter, but we're seeing some organizations or some people that maybe are being a little silent and it's being noticed, let's say.
Yeah. Yeah, you're on watch.
So people are. I'm trying to share it right now, but for some reason, my sharing.
If anybody's watching this right now, go ahead and share. What's up to everybody that's joined the chat, gone live. If Cassandra is watching, she can tap in anytime because she texted me asking when can she log in. She can log in whenever. We are ready. I hope I don't have to just text her and tell her just anytime, but I may have to do that. But yeah, the ones that are saying silent are the loudest right now in the world of sports. But even NASCAR has basically said, to heck with the Confederate flag. We don't need it. We shouldn't have had it in the first place. We're taking it down. Off the urges of one black driver, famous black driver who spoke out today and said, get rid of that thing. Which was why I was never personally a fan of NASCAR. I could not look at it. And how naive of me as a kid growing up watching Dukes of Hazzard, and he had the Confederate flag on top of the General Lee, Robert E. Lee. Come on, see? Didn't even know, right? How it correlates together. Having something like that and the connotations that go with that symbolism of the Confederate flag. So big ups to them. I hope that they get more into an inclusionary way of spectators. I know a few black people that do attend some of the NASCAR races. There is an actual family that owns, that has a NASCAR kind of like whole team together with a racer and race car driver and everything. And so now we just need to see that inclusion. But a lot of that stems from the South, and the South has a lot of work to do. So that's just one of those things as well. It's just going to be a lot of mountain climbing through this whole journey.
But that's a major breakthrough. I mean, if you've been to a NASCAR event before, I've been to one. I mean, it's a good old, you know about good old boys, like that's some good old boy stuff where Confederate flags,
and that's why I never went. And that's entirely why I never went. I never felt that as a safe space to watch a sport like that. Watch it on TV, fine. Give all that. To be there though, in that atmosphere, it never was a comfortable atmosphere for me to attend. I never felt like that was a wanted space for me because of its history,
But you can tell, and with Bubba Wallace, he is probably, I don't even know how many African-American drivers there are, but he's one of a small percentage. And for this to happen through NASCAR, I think it just shows you the volume of what's happening. I mean, it should have been done a long time ago. We all know this. But I mean, that's a big step for them, and I applaud NASCAR. But I applaud Bubba Wallace. I saw him on, I'm a CNN addict now. I don't watch ESPN anymore until sports are back on, so it's all CNN. So I saw him and Don Lemon on, doing a interview, and it was really good. I really appreciate, and for him, it's kind of like he's had to deal with this, of course, like everybody else in the country, but focused on his sport for so long, and he's just, it became natural, just like a regular thing for him. But it was good to hear his story and good to kind of see, what was going on.
Yeah, I mean, hey, we all got stories. It's going to be a lot of stories. It's going to be a lot of untold things that's going to be coming out. And it's good that we have an audience of people that aren't Black like yourself that can appreciate those stories and kind of share and experience the feelings of some sort of what he was going through, because whatever he was going through, it's almost like, have you met our friend Jackie Robinson? Same thing.
Yeah.
Have you met, you know what I mean? So it's one of those things that in every aspect of sports, Black males, Black females, we've had to battle something. There's so many stories, and a lot of the MLB players are now trying to be a little bit outspoken as far as their experiences of the chants that they receive coming out of the dugout before they go to the plate. So it's a lot of deep stuff, but it's very interesting to me how now that the acknowledgement is there and some of the apologies are coming, now we're going to reverse some things that happened to you personally and give it back to you, like Reggie Bush and his Heisman. What? Really? That's
well, I think, and I did a little research on that, because there was an initiative that happened in like 2017 where they made a rule where you can no longer be disassociated from your school beyond 10 years.
Right.
So it just so happened that 10 years hit right during this time period too. So it was kind of like a double whammy at the same time.
That's interesting that it hit right when it did.
I know, right? Because he had gotten banned like in 2010 in June. Mm-hmm. And so of course it hit right during this time too, which kind of like, necessarily wasn't because of it, but it just kind of made more of an impact as well, I think.
Well, it definitely did, because of the simple fact that he was the only one out of USC history to ever not receive his award for his career in his 3 years being at USC, the amount of rush yards that he had, number of touchdowns that he had, and all of that. And because of a small violation of his parents being taken care of from outsiders, this is what happens. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
Wow.
So now we're just getting everything back into the apology tour. Drew Brees has made several apologies to the point now where I'm like, enough, cut it. I'm tired. Like, I'm really tired. Like,
yeah,
you should have made that right the first time. Like, I don't understand.
I will applaud him.
We have to say a video, write a letter, and then follow up with another letter. Like, come on, man.
Right. I hear you. I think his wife even came out and was like, no, this is our problem. This is our problem. And I'm happy that she said something too. I mean, I think it takes everybody to start figuring out kind of where they lie in this whole thing, and something that they can do, start changing it. But thanks to everybody that's checking in with us right now. The Snowman, Brian Snowman, Heather has chimed in, my boy Ho out there in Seattle. Shout out to Ho too, because he was part of an event with a couple of Seahawks, like Travis Homer. I forgot the other one. Sorry, Ho.
Talk about it. I'm gonna hit up Cassandra real quick. I don't know if that'll. But
yeah.
All right. Sorry, I have to go black, guys.
Going black. Okay.
Yes.
But it was an event that they did to help with the Virginia Mason frontline workers. So it was pretty cool of them. There were some great pictures. Make sure Ho's Facebook page is on here too. But there was a great event. They gave back to a lot of the frontline workers that have been putting in with the whole COVID. Seattle being one of the big places where it started. So it was good for them. Yeah, I just, plus it, anything it was Brandon Jackson. Sorry. Thank you, Ho. Yes. Brandon Jackson. But anything of course, from anything that has to do with the Seahawks or is happening in Seattle, I'm homesick too. Like I don't know what it is. I need to go see my mom or something, but I'm homesick. I miss home a little bit. I miss summers in Seattle. I miss sports in Seattle. I'm having a big issue right now with sports. And people keep telling me, "Don't worry, Melissa. It's going to start soon." It's still like another month, maybe a month and a half away.
July.
Like middle, I think MLS is at the beginning of in July. July 31st for basketball.
Mm-hmm. Then we got MLS going over to that Disney area too in Orlando. So you got all these different facets of sports, WNBA, NBA, and now soccer, all in that apex. And I just saw an update on ESPN that some of the professional basketball players aren't too comfortable with the whole bubble apex. And I didn't get a chance to read into it to see which ones particularly had some issues with doing that. But yeah, so it's going to be interesting how that all comes together. I'm looking forward to it personally.
Hang on. We're going to
good.
Okay. Hey!
Hey!
How are you?
I'm good.
What's up?
Doing?
Cheers to you.
Cheers, Cassandra.
Have you seen this new cup? Like it says Starbucks confetti. So on the top, you see how like these little white flecks? Well, when you put some cold in it, they get like rainbow-like.
Oh, that's cute. That's really, really cute. Okay.
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we have our favorite Sportsnista joining us today because we just came off of a UFC 250, and I wanted to kind of wait till you came on to talk about the fight because we watched it this past weekend, but you were there.
Yeah.
And I just kind of wanted you to walk us through that process as far as being media and the rules and restrictions and the testing and all of that it involved and what that experience was like.
Well, I'm still recovering. It was legit a 20-hour day. I left my house at 6 a.m. and I got home at like 1:15.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you get to there's UFC bought out 2 hotels, reserved them. One for fighters, the other one for media and staff. And we had to get there by 7:45, I think it was. And there was like multiple checkpoints within the hotel. You get kind of like sign your name and then you sign a waiver that basically says if you get sick, good luck to you, but you can't sue nobody around here. That's what they want to do.
Non-liability.
There's like, look, if she dies, she dies.
Yeah.
So then they did the swab. I actually posted this on my Instagram. It lasts like 3 seconds. It's just like nothing. You say, and then it's done. But then you have to be sequestered in a hotel room for about 7 hours. And
really?
Till about 2:00. It's a basically no news is good news thing. Nobody called and said you're clear. It's just you went downstairs. If they called you, then you could assume you were not clear. So
gotcha.
It's like you got to call your doctor and get up out of here. But
wow.
At the actual apex, so there's a media tent set up in the parking lot. There were 3 writers allowed in: Kevin Ioli from Yahoo Sports, Arash from LA Times, and one more, John Morgan from MMA Junkie and USA Today. So everyone else was in the tent, and there was no cross-contamination. If you were inside, you couldn't come into the tent till it was over. If you were in the tent, you couldn't go inside. And that included the bathroom. I couldn't go into the bathroom inside. There was a really nice double wide trailer back there that we could use. Yeah, it was nice. Even the food was in a hot box and a cooler, and it was pre-packaged. There was so we sat 3 chairs in between us, so you couldn't really talk to one another. We had the mask on, you couldn't hear if you did, and so they ran a really, really tight ship there.
Wow.
But there was a fighter multiple fighters almost didn't make it on the card. There was a trainer who had, first we were told a positive test, and then we were told it was inconclusive. So they retested him. And what happened was there were multiple fighters who knew that trainer. And so they were all saying, hey, what's up, and hanging out. Wow. And so the whole freaking card was really in jeopardy until that test came back.
Wow.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
Well,
was that a preliminary fighter, or was that a fighter that was on the main card?
Neil Magny was on the main card. He was part of that. Ian Heinrich, I think is the last name. He was on the prelims, but I was told there were others as well.
Wow, man.
Well, I one of your I think it was one of your posts where you showed like the individual tables that the media sat at within the tent, that the UFC basically provided equipment separately for each person, so there was no cross contamination for like mics or your work areas and stations. So how was that?
We each had our own mic, and we each had our own power strip cord as well. And so usually there's you can talk to the fighters if they come to the tent. They had like another tent in back of the tent for another set of press conferences that were taking place, virtual ones for media who weren't there. And even as they were waiting for that, you couldn't get up and go talk to the fighters. UFC PR was like all over you if you tried to do that. But yeah. And they were cleaning down like the table when fighters came in. After they left, everything was swapped out, and they were very conscious of it. And listen, they're doing all this testing. Someone's going to test positive. That's the whole purpose of the test.
Right.
But in between all of that, it's kind of weird though. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw it. Like, you're wearing a mask after you've been tested negative. It didn't make any sense. Unless
because if everyone's in there already, how are you allowed to catch it if everyone tests negative?
This is what I'm saying. And I never got
COVID conspiracies going on.
Listen, we never got like an all clear either. We never, like, I didn't get like a medical slip that said, you know, here's your results. Me and get that. So I'm just saying.
That's very interesting. And let's talk about that, because if you were sitting down, you could never leave again, right? So through preliminary, and then main, and then to
your car. My car was at the hotel. I could, I guess I could have called a Lyft, but yeah.
Wow. Interesting. So how did it look? Okay, because watching it, it felt like I was watching old MMA fights or UFC when it got introduced to Spike TV, where there's no sound and you're just kind of in this ring, hearing everything and hearing as much coaching as you possibly can. But to hear that and to be there, what was that experience like? And then another thing, not for nothing, you're seeing droplets of fluid, of blood, and all kinds of things in there. Did that freak you out at any moment with whole COVID and what we're going through?
Nah, I mean, everybody had been tested, but I had been to the Contender Series prior to COVID-19, and that was more wild than this, because there was no COVID-19 precautions. So the only thing that was really difficult was like having all that space between all of my colleagues. Like, there were some things like when we just talked to Devin Clark, who was the fighter who knelt and raised his fist. I was writing story for lvsportsbiz.com, and so I had my head down when the fight started, and I didn't see it, and I heard mumbling, but because people had on masks, we couldn't really hear what each other was saying. Right. So it was just really hard. And I wonder too, like, about the ADA kind of regulations, the Americans with Disabilities Act. There are people who rely on lip reading, and they're just ass out right now.
Which is interesting to me, because their rule is 6 feet. Like, when it's things and objects around, if you're in public spaces, it's got to be a 6 feet rule for ADA. And it's so interesting that they didn't have anything that could kind of have some compliance for those that wanted to come. That's
ain't no compliance.
Wow.
There's no compliance. I mean, because you can, so when the fighters come, they don't have a mask on. So you can hear them, but you can't really like hear. And there were times when people took their mask off, and, it's like, hey man, if you're going to throw me out, you're going to throw me out. But there were people who were willing to risk it all and take their masks down for a few minutes.
So out of the main card fights, your undercard fights, which fights were your best takeaways? And we'll get to the Amanda Nunes one as well. But prior to that, which one is the one that, spoke to you with the undercard fighters as well as some of the main card fighters? Before?
Well, Cody I mean, Cody Garbrandt needed the win probably more than anybody on that card. He needed that win, and he did it in spectacular fashion. And he was, that one punch knockout. That's something. That right hand is something that people have been talking about Cody for a long time. So that was interesting to see him come back. With that, Aljamain Sterling looked great. That division is bananas, that bantamweight division. There's like 4 or 5 guys who at any night, depending on the matchup, could own the strap. So those were the 2 other than Amanda that I found that were really exciting. And it was a good card, actually.
Yeah.
It was actually a pretty good card, top to bottom.
Well, I enjoyed it.
Looking at the main event, I mean, who would have thought that fight would have gone 5 rounds? Who would have thought that Felicia Spencer would have hung in there for the 5 rounds that she did?
Right.
I mean, I was mildly impressed. Yeah. I can't even say mildly. I was highly impressed because I personally couldn't last 2 seconds with Amanda Nunes. But you could tell by Amanda's disposition, the whole time through the fight, she was prepared. She was ready. She really was.
She takes it as a challenge and a badge of honor these days to go 5 rounds, because early on people talk so much crap about her not being able to go into deep waters because her cardio wasn't great. But she is the most complete female fighter ever, and she is one of the most complete fighters in all of mixed martial arts right now. She's strong and she looks good at 145. That's kind of like her natural weight.
She actually looked really good. Her arms, though, oh my God, the biceps, like you could just tell, like she was not playing. I mean, her physical specimen of herself just looked.
Yeah.
It paled. I mean, for Felicia, it just paled in comparison to what Amanda looked like. It looked like one worked out and one kind of didn't.
One was an athlete. One worked out and the other one was a world-class athlete.
Yeah. One was just,
It was like your sparring partner at the gym that, you just popped up in the ring real quick.
Yeah. Did you guys feel uncomfortable, like after the 3rd round? Like, how much more punishment was this woman going to take?
Well, and I kind of felt like I didn't know if Amanda was trying to prove a point that she could go 5 rounds. So she wasn't maybe going, I don't know if she was going as hard. I mean, obviously she wasn't going as hard in the 5th round as she did, I think, in the earlier rounds. Just because, I think she needed to get her point over with and win the fight. But it felt, I felt like it wasn't as exciting those first few rounds. I was probably wanting more. I wanted a TKO. I wanted it, something to happen in those first couple rounds. Yeah.
Well, she has said that, she has to display her arsenal differently now because people have seen her fight enough. They're preparing for her. So she's trying to mix it up a little bit. And in doing so, it's hard to keep your pacing throughout because there's some start and stop going on. But man, is she strong. She is ridiculous. Like the way that she handled Felicia Spencer and just body slammed her a couple of times. And she was so happy. She actually goes another record that she gets. And she's the first champion to successfully defend 2 belts back to back. Her wife, Nina Asnaroff, will be giving birth in September. So she will be the first mother to be champion in the UFC. And so her Hall of Fame credentials, no one else will have her credentials. No one.
No.
Man or female. No one's going to have them. So she's taking the rest of the year off.
She's a girl for real. I mean, she really is. But here's the question. So we all saw the fight, but what's next for her? What else can she do? She's run through pretty much everybody. Is it time to recircle, or are there up and comers that maybe about that we, me and Mo are in it as much as you guys? And shout out to your Levels podcast as well for all MMA and fighting and stuff. But is there anything else? I mean, what can she do? Just sit back until somebody appears, or what can we expect?
Well, there's not a whole lot of competition left for her in either one of those divisions, especially not the bantamweight division. Megan Anderson would have been the next one, but Felicia's beat her. So, there's kind of a lot of, Jermaine Radaman, maybe. She would take another fight with her. But Amanda's going to take the rest of the year off. And I don't know how many more fights she has left on her contract, but Dana was asked the same question, what's next for her, and did he foresee a super fight between her and Valentina Shevchenko? And he said no. Who has next in the UFC in terms of female fighters is Weili Zhang. He talked a lot about Bailey, and so we got to see what happens between Rose and Jessica Andrade, and then the winner of that fight is going to fight Weili for the title again, and Joanna is still in the mix there as well. The reason why Weili is going to be the one that they push a whole lot, she has that huge market in China.
Oh yeah.
You know, them dollars make sense for Dana White. If anything else, he's so gangster about his money. That, you know, he's going to take
that
her
last
there.
fight that she had, that last fight at T-Mobile, the last public fight we could see.
With Joanna.
Oh, she beasted it. I mean, that's she's definitely next. I see that, and it's so funny to me too with Amanda, because you get $450,000 now, $350,000
right?
extra $100,000 bonus. So yeah, you could somewhat take the year off, figure it out, do what you need to do. But I don't see any contender coming close to her. I really don't.
No, I mean, it's not. Here's the thing: for as much as Ronda Rousey was a pioneer in the sport, if there were no Ronda Rousey, there would not be an Amanda Nunes. Even though Amanda did beat her, but still, she was a pioneer and she opened the door. But Ronda really was a one-trick pony. You know, she tried to rip your arm off.
The arm bar,
yeah, similar to Miesha Tate. Amanda Nunes has really ushered in a different era of female fighters in mixed martial arts, whether, you know, it's UFC or any of the other competing promotions. And so you do see more women who are more well-rounded. They can grapple. Their jiu-jitsu is strong, especially the Brazilian fighters. But the new ones coming up are much more physical. So if Amanda were to be like, on her way down, I can see somebody catching her. And that's kind of what happens with all the great champions. You look at John Jones, same thing. Anderson Silva was the same way. And so you're going to have to catch her on her way down. Perhaps after she comes back from her leave, we might see something a little different. But at 135, maybe there's more competition for her than at 145, but
that's what I was thinking. Maybe she drops her weight and gets into a different class, maybe.
Yeah, so at 135, Holly Holm is still there. I still think that Holly, could retire pretty soon. Aspen Ladd's there. She destroyed Raquel Pennington. No, I mean, and then it's just like downhill from there. I don't, but that's the division. Again, Jermaine is there too, but I can't. There's an interesting woman there, Juliana Pena. She lost to Valentino, but she beat Kat Zingano. Possibly, we'll see. There's some names out there, but golly, it's kind of like who's gonna beat Floyd Mayweather, at his peak.
Who's going to be able to climb out Everest and survive? Yeah, that's the key. Like, who's going to be able to do it? Because I just don't, even with the names you named, yes, possibilities, but it's going to take a lot.
It really if he's a new up and comer who's a no name or that we don't know much about, that could just come out here and start, giving them hands.
Absolutely. So there's a fighter, Tatiana Suarez, who it's possible she could have moved up at a certain point, but she's had a lot of back problems. So I don't know.
Man. So not only are women dominating in our MMA, we have to the point where now we have stars from UFC calling out retirements. What's up with that, Connor?
Re-retirement.
What's going on?
Listen, you ain't no fighter for real.
Shine from Amanda, she just won, and here we go and get an update that Conor McGregor's now announced.
Like we needed it at that moment. We needed it at that moment. Listen, you can't be a professional fighter if you don't retire at least once. So that's what this dude, he had to retire at least once. Let me tell you something. Conor is making a boatload of money with Proper 12. He is making so much stinking money. And that's the thing about the fight game. You got to be hungry, and you got to have you got to be in survival mode at a certain point in order to keep taking them fights. And Conor does not have to do it. He's fighting guys who would normally fight at 155 at 170 in Darnold Cerrone, and guys who would normally fight at 170 at 155.
Right.
And it's a big fight, but right now he shouldn't fight for the title. He's not in line to fight Khabib. Justin Gaethje is.
Right.
So he asked Dana White, could he have another crack at Khabib once Tony lost, once Ferguson won. That's ridiculous. Like Gaethje earned that crack at the title. So nah, you're not getting that. So what's he gonna do? He's gonna take his gloves and go home.
Right.
Drink his whiskey for a minute or two. He's been very vocal about social issues though, through his social media. And so maybe, use this platform for good and don't get kicked in the head, I guess.
And I know Floyd reached out and tweeted to him saying, hey, I'm still waiting for our fight. If you ever decide you want to come back. And I'm just like, oh, really?
Don't you love it when people retire, then all of a sudden, like, why didn't you come back when he was active?
Thank you. Thank
you.
I
mean, in all realness, the longevity of a career in MMA is not very long. I mean, you have a little bit of time to make your point and to make your name known. And then it's kind of like,
Right.
So yeah, it's good for him that he's getting other money from other sources, because really it's not the fights that are paying his pockets at this point. So why keep going through that, I guess.
And they all asking for more money.
Like, he decided to make his statement right after UFC 250. Like, Amanda Nunes just had this great win, and then it's like, oh, Conor McGregor wants to steal a spotlight for 5 minutes.
Well, that's what I was saying. It was crazy. Like, oh, now you want to come in and shine when the news you want to shine from Amanda. But that's Conor. That's who he is. So.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised by it. It's just one of those things that he is who he is. I do see him probably coming back. I don't think he's done. I kind of feel like he might.
He's got to. They all have to call their own shot. Like Daniel Cormier wants that third fight, which he's going to get against Stipe Miocic, and that'll be it.
Because he's announced his retirement too, as well. Correct? After that match,
twice. He's twice retired.
Here we go.
And so they want to. Here's my thinking on rematches. Ain't no such thing, man. It's just a new fight. You're not getting that other win back. You really did lose. So it's not like the loss gets erased. Maybe in your mind you get a get back. Man, I'm holding my daughter's like little thing. The hell is what this thing is?
Nice.
Random stuff. Random life. Random girl.
Too cute.
But DC wants to go out the way that he wants to go out, and I think he's earned the right to do that. But this got to be the last one, don't it? I mean, it got to be the last one.
Yeah.
I'm not
no spring chicken either. He ain't a spring chicken either. I feel like it's time.
Who wants to lose and then go out? Like, I just feel like it's, why say that you're going to retire not even knowing what's happening in the fight yet? Like,
yeah, that's an interesting one too.
But they all have, at that level, they've made a lot of money. The upper echelon UFC fighters have, and the other ones, there's just like the boxing working class. Most of them are the working class folks, they got a day paycheck to paycheck. By the time there were fighters on this card who made $12,000. So,
yeah, I saw one for $40,000 on a main card and was like, what?
They got 5 people they got to pay.
Yep.
Plus Uncle Sam.
Yeah. That's a lot.
It's a journey. It really is.
It's not a lot.
It's not.
Well, it's not.
It's not. It's really not. So let's talk about real quick, shifting gears to boxing, because I just noticed that Tyson Fury now has agreed to a 2-fight deal with another opponent. That's not Deontay Wilder.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that? Because I just had a brain lapse of who he decided to. He said he was going to fight.
AJ.
Who is it?
AJ. Anthony Joshua.
Yes, Anthony Joshua.
Yeah.
2 fights.
Yeah. That's the fight to make. I don't see any different outcome if he were to fight Deontay Wilder again. Tyson Fury is the best heavyweight in the world. And honestly, I don't think it's close. The guy is mean. He is a true heavyweight, unlike Deontay Wilder, who struggles to make 230. He is also
Maybe he needs to build up on those legs.
Man, or stop wearing like heavy metal into the
coming out like a Decepticon. Did nobody ask for that?
Nobody asked for that. But so Joshua has all the other belts. So if Tyson Fury but Fury, we thought this would be it. He would fight Joshua and that's that. But he said he could fight until he's 40 years old. I believe he's 32 or 33 right now. He's a young, old fighter. He's an old soul. He's been through a lot. But Anthony Joshua, they'll make that fight. Probably it'll happen in Saudi Arabia because Eddie Hearn likes that money, and that's who's paying right now.
And that's where Fight Island is out there too.
Fight Island.
Fight Island is out in Abu Dhabi.
Did you get information? Was Dana giving any information about the Fight Island?
So he went on First Take and he gave, the map and all that and confirmed it for Abu Dhabi. He didn't want to do it without pictures. He's like, I got all these pictures and I want to show you the pictures. And I was just like, okay. We'll wait for the pictures. But the fighters that night, Herbert Burns actually was like, yeah, Dana said that, it's going to be in Abu Dhabi. And so, like, the cat was out of the bag, but he wanted to. Did you see the video? Did you see the pictures?
No, I haven't.
It is a real island, but think about it like Disney World, like it's Abu Dhabi. It's the Middle East. It's Yas Island. In the United Arab Emirates, and it's got these beautiful skyscrapers. It has amusement parks. It has beaches. It has like this mall like you've never seen a mall before. But the everything will be closed up around the arena for I think a 10-mile radius, and so you can't get in if you're not a fighter or part of UFC in any way. Can't get in, and UFC has chartered several planes, basically created its own airline to get everybody in and out.
So are they going to have like set time frames that people have to be on the island for, like their own like self-quarantine per se, or once you're there, you're stuck there until after your fight or until?
Yeah. So the hotel is part of, the blocked off radius. And so it'll be similar to what they did at Apex. Everybody will be arriving according to their call time, pretty much. So there won't be. So unlike T-Mobile, fighters were often like, you didn't really have your own dressing room. They had like partitions. And so at Apex, you got your own dressing room. Like Apex is a phenomenal facility, and they're really trying to duplicate that so that there's less of a chance of cross-contamination anywhere. And so, listen, they don't do anything kind of halfway at UFC. Like, say what you want about Dana White, but he has a brilliant mind for the fight game, for his business. And even like, I did ask him some questions that he didn't really have answers for on Saturday, because he knows his business. Anything outside of that,
Yeah, I saw one of the reporters asked him something, got rather defensive about his passion of making this work and executing it. And they were asking about the future and using the expletive, like, I don't effing know. We're just going off of what model I create, and we're just taking it each time. I don't know the effing future. Like, he really was upset because it's like, I don't know the future. I'm confident enough that maybe we can execute something, but I'm not a fortune teller to tell you if it's going to continue. We don't know,
Yeah, so he went after veteran reporter Kevin Iole, and went after is kind of a strong word, because it's just the way that Dana talks, man. He's just brash, and it's like just how he talks. He wasn't cussing him out, but he was cussing. Like he was like, that's a dumb effing question. And like, it wasn't really, because Iole was like, why are all these fighters coming at you right now? Asking for more money. And Dana was like, well, what you think? Like, I don't know. Like, ask them about why they want more. There's a pandemic going on. Everything is difficult right now, and these guys want more money. Ask them.
Yeah.
So I get it, but he's not going to answer any questions that are outside of his tunnel vision comfort zone. But he said something really interesting that people need to pay attention to, because he said this in January, that he expected COVID-19 to affect his business for the remainder of 2020 and perhaps into 2021. Saturday, he said that he expected things to get much worse. That we have
Really?
Yep. He said the worst is yet to come.
I did hear a little snippet of that, because we got a second wave. Like, people don't understand, we're still in a pandemic, regardless of, you're seeing protesting and people clustered together and all of that, and things opening in phases, and you're seeing people out in these casinos and all that. Yeah,
but he's also talking about the economy.
Right. That too.
And he flat out said, he was like, look, in the next couple of months, half of the media is going to lose their jobs, and there's going to be a lot more layoffs. There's going to be bankruptcies, and it's going to hit real estate. It's going to get really bad. And I pay attention to that because he's the canary in the coal mine. He's privy to a lot of information that we do not have. From the highest levels, from business. He's got the president's ear. He's got cons as well. So, folks, protect y'all's chickens.
Well, I was thinking that anyway, regardless of the market now. I was thinking that anyway, with the way the hotel game is. You're not having a full occupancy. You're not allowing that. So, people that have, unfortunately, sadly lost their jobs probably won't be getting those jobs back. And then you have events that are no longer taking place in the city. We're going to see what the Raiders do. We're excited about the Lights starting up their season. But that's what we got. And it's going to be very interesting if there's no shows, no concerts, none of that kind of stuff, what that tourism looks like and how it's going to drain on the economy. It's going to be a rippling effect.
To see all of these sports leagues really pushing ahead hard and heavy. They got to get that money and the advertiser support as soon as possible, because things are going to start to get a little gnarly come, I predict, September, October-ish. So they're gonna have to get ahead of it. I mean, there were some NBA players who are not too keen on being out there.
Yeah, we were talking about that they're a little hesitant on going to that Apex bubble over there in Florida to do that. So
I mean, and did you see, so the WNBA, they're playing in Florida as well at the IMG facility, and there are some players who don't, what is it, a 20-game season that they're going to put on at 60% pay. So there's a hazard risk, and there's some players, they didn't sign new contracts. They're still under the old CBA.
Right.
And they're playing basically like at a high school gym with no fans. They're asking them to do that. And I don't know, can Liz Cambage even come back? She's in Australia.
She's still in Australia. I don't know.
But they haven't even said a date.
Back because they put Carolyn Swartz on the team, I feel like, to replace her. So what is that? You know what I mean?
Well, no,
Carolyn
they haven't was there because it's
either. Like, there's no set dates.
Yeah. July is their I forget the date, but it is July for them as well. But Carolyn was put back on the team to replace Jisoo, who decided to stay.
She was in Jisoo, because she was in Korea, because she was supposed to take an executive position and wasn't able to do that. Now she's back on the team.
Well, how interesting is it that Rusha Brown left under the cloak of night her position to take the same position in LA, didn't have like things set up, like she wasn't saying where she was living, where where her daughter was going to school, and so Carolyn was in that position, but now she has to suit up. But I found it interesting, how that transition from Rusha, like, look, I ain't want to gossip since you ain't hear from me, but I just connecting some dots, like sign didn't match up. Like that straw was not all the way in the Kool-Aid.
Oh.
And you know, until you just said that, it's just making me think. Because I was like, you're right. I didn't even realize the blitz on the play when I saw that, when it was like going down, because and no one knew that she was even having an interest of going into LA and taking a position. It was just kind of like all of a sudden.
Right.
And then press was out with Carolyn Swartz.
Yeah.
Taking her place.
So, yeah, it's very... No. Carolyn was announced in a position before Rusha.
Yeah, it wasn't the same position, but she was announced. Right. But
in
it's
the
still
same
like kind of intersect. I feel like it's kind of the same position, if you will, but termed differently. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out as far as this season, even with MLB trying to come back, with MLS filing a home in Orlando, WNBA, NBA, and now you've got football, and our Raiders and our stadium is all saying that they are trying to go full capacity, not no half. We're trying to do the whole stadium. Have you heard anything else regarding that?
They're not going to be fans in there for a while. They can't do it. You know, the NFL is not going to allow it. The state of Nevada is not going to allow it. We're still in a pandemic. Just because people decided they're sick of it doesn't mean doesn't mean we're not still in a pandemic.
Right.
It is extreme. So Top Rank put on their boxing cards in Las Vegas started yesterday. They'll be here through most of June, Tuesday and Thursday night cards. It is costing them about $25,000, I believe, a card to test and put all of these protocols in place.
And where are they going to be at?
They are at the MGM in the convention center in a ballroom. Okay. They're fighting this scrap. It's like old school, like, you know, might as well put it in the parking lot.
Wow, because the MGM property is open for tourism right now, and you've got the people. I mean, it's all recycled air when you get into all these places. So the fact that you're now going to have this whole thing, but it's not even its own entity. You're using a facility that's on the same property as another place where there's a bunch of tourists who may or may not have it. I mean, you just getting a temperature check at the door is not going to change anything.
It's not. And so that, going back to the NFL, the only thing that they could do is do a temperature check. And I don't think the league has the appetite to do that person by person, unless and I'm sure it's in development already, but they probably have scans that you could walk through and they can take your temperature that way. But the risk of people en masse becoming ill and staff workers and players becoming ill as a result of having fans in the arena is way too high. Nobody wants to do it. The UFC can get away with it. Boxing, to an extent, can get away with it because it's so much more contained. I mean, you got 2 fighters and like 4 or 5 people that they bring. Top Rank is only going with 2 cut men for the entire duration of the time. Stitch Duran is one of them. And that's it. They work in whatever corners, you know, and for them to be at the MGM and while there's people there is, you know, because Michaela Mayer, one of their star female boxers, tested positive. Now, there's some speculation that it might be a false positive.
Yeah.
No one else around her. She has a coach who is probably in his 70s, perhaps 80s. And she's been around a lot of other people. No one around her tested positive. No one back home where she came from, Colorado, tested positive. So unlike UFC, who would retest you, boxing did not retest. It was a one and done. So she had to immediately get up out of there. So folks they're trying to figure it out, and I don't think there's room to figure it out with NFL and NBA.
Would you have rather, in your personal opinion, just said forgo the season, let's just chuck it, we're in a pandemic, see what happens for 2021? Or do you feel like this is a good thing that we need to have? Because I know Mel is missing her sports over there and about to go crazy.
For which sport?
For any of them. Well, aside from the fighting. So I'd say for NFL, I'd say for baseball, I'd say for NBA, WNBA, all of those.
Yeah. those sports have guaranteed contracts. The only where I'm torn is that there are staff members and stadium workers and kind of ancillary folks who earn a paycheck and who were displaced. I mean, what else are you going to do? Like, you know what I mean? Like for 6 months out of the year, you are a ticket taker or, you know, whatever it is. Like what no one else in your industry is hiring. So unless there was a safety net for those people to continue to earn an income as long as the sport is out, I'm 100% for it. But if they do come back, each of these leagues needs to be in a complete bubble. So I am 100% against having fans come to any of these arenas until we have proven some efficacy on the vaccine. I'm not talking about the first round of it. Like I ain't taking no first round vaccine. Are you crazy?
Right.
Like it's not gonna be Operation Darky on me. We are not fit to do that. So
Yeah.
I mean it's tough. With fighters, it's they're not guaranteed any kind of money. And
Right.
a lot of them are making scraps. And so if we can make it safe as possible without fans, like even without media, like I'm cool. Like I really just don't want to see these type of athletes struggle because they come from struggle. Who's getting kicked in the head if they could be a doctor?
Right.
Instead.
They needed an outlet for the aggression, you know?
Yeah.
Well, I think for me, I think it's also tough because except for the WNBA and possibly the NFL, all these continued or about to start late leagues like Major League Baseball, the MLS, MLB, NBA, they're now facing their end of season once they restart to be back to back with their next season. Like there's no time off.
No, because you go right into preseason in October, and by that time, you've already ended the championship series in the NBA.
And it's also going to be when we're supposed to have this whole second kick of COVID, which I think is almost already started now. But along with the flu, like, I don't think we want to go anywhere for a while.
Man, let me tell you, like, me and these kids barely been anywhere for months anyway. We used to it. So I don't really need to go, but there are going to be some adjustments in those schedules, like what would normally happen in terms of training camps and things. I mean, NHL is part of it as well. Like you're just not going to see, it's not normal. Ain't nothing normal right now.
No, it's not. It's not.
Do you feel that maybe Vegas has a chance to host for the NHL? Because they still have yet to decide as to the two final locations. Have you heard anything? Do you think that would be beneficial for Vegas? I mean, beyond just extra people and supporting the city, but
I think that it is more possible than the others because we actually have a team owner in the market. So we didn't have a team owner in the market for the NBA. Also with ESPN, it's a little different because their production crew is there at that World of Sports. And so they had to move less people in terms of, their staff to put it on. And I think, there was something to be said about the Las Vegas mayor, like acting a little goofy and talking about how she was used.
Yeah, that didn't help. That didn't help the PR one bit with her placebo effects. That did not help. Yeah.
It helped. But having an owner of a team in the market is makes a big difference. And so I wouldn't be surprised if Las Vegas is seriously in the mix for this.
I would hope so.
Now, I have a question for you. If Seattle is still supposedly closed, what's that look like for the Seahawks as far as their season starting? If they haven't opened,
well, actually, so they had been supposedly supposed to be closed until like the end of June, but they actually reopened up. Like my mom let me know yesterday that TJ Maxx, Marshalls, and Ross were all open on the 15th. So they are starting to reopen. They're just kind of like a step behind us. Like their restaurants are starting to be able to be open. people are getting their nails done again. People are getting their hair done again. But it's kind of slowly progressing. So I believe like the facility itself could be open. I feel like the stadium could be open. But again, I don't feel like there's going to be fans there. And especially with like, you know, everything else that's happening around the world, all the people that are out and they're trying, you know, with a different kind of, I don't know, with all the people that have been out in these streets and, you know, it's going to be tough. But I think Seattle, you know, it's one that's open. I mean, most of the coaches were able to go to their designated facilities as of last Friday, as long as it was approved through the state and the government. So I'm hopeful.
So saying all that, their timeline, and if the season starts, we get into August, September for football.
Well, and they've already talked about having a shortened preseason for just 2.
So will they be properly ready to go for game time?
We're going to see who's actually taking it seriously. Like I saw Sam Darnold actually was hosting like a little camp in Florida, and there's some players who are doing that as well. So we'll see. I mean, football ain't one of them sports though where you can kind of like get ready as you go.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that's how people, you know, get their heads taken off.
Right. That's why I'm so concerned. Like, what are these camps looking like? What are these practices looking like? Because you just can't go from sitting on your couch to now being out on the field. You know, it's just.
And football players, I feel like, well, the NFL has more of a shot than the other sports of having a full season, just because it's, you know,
right, for the time
games.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So what's with Jerry Jones being silent? His silence is deafening. I want to know if these Cowboy fans.
And what's with Des Bryant having his back though? Like, I cannot.
Listen, no answer is an answer sometimes.
Yeah, you're right about that.
That's his answer. I mean,
we already all knew kind of how Jerry Jones feels, but then I was floored by just Des, you know, backing him up and what.
So the Cowboy fans are staying Cowboy fans, is what you're telling me.
Yep.
Okay.
But, you know, Jerry Jones is one of those owners who was like very much so against Colin Kaepernick taking the knee.
And the kneeling too.
So he couldn't possibly say anything now. I mean, but I give Roger Goodell credit. He didn't have to say what he said and go as far as he did. They needed to do it. However, and, you know, Colin Kaepernick need to have, like, you know, the Sealy fingers up until you do right by me. No, nothing you do.
Well, that's my issue with that whole apology, because he didn't
say my name.
In the room. He didn't even mention it.
He acknowledged an elephant in the room that started this cycle of why you guys did what you did. And that to me is
like he was dodging, you know, it's like it didn't look. I mean, I appreciate him in his commentary, but for you not even to, you know, address the actual person, you know, it felt.
You got to say the man's
name behind it, and it seemed a little disingenuous to me. That's just my opinion, because I think you could say his name, but you know, no guy's gonna be willing to admit wrong.
I don't know.
Especially a guy like Goodell. He's just not that. He's not that guy. But it's going to be interesting to see how this goes. It's going to be very interesting with presidential influence of how the anthem is going to be presented now, if it's going to even be played at opening ceremonies for games, because they were talking about that too, not even having it played. So it's going to be interesting how all this is going to play out.
But the U.S. Army is a huge sponsor, financial sponsor of the NFL. And for the anthem not to be played and not to have the flyovers, you've got a serious cash sponsorship issue in a time when everybody's trying to get as much coins as they possibly can. And so they don't want to see that sponsorship go away. Now, it'd be best just to keep the players in the locker room. If that's what we need to do, but there's no fans.
Right.
So, I know fans anyway. So who's going to be singing it's just going to be goofy to sing the national anthem as it is. Like, you're going to stand in the middle of the field. You know, that's one more person to bring into the bubble, another person to test. And then all the other kind of supporting cast that goes with someone singing a national anthem. You got to have the sound people,
all that
to go with it. So I don't, there are decisions that need to be made. But I did see that NASCAR I cannot believe in 2020, NASCAR decided no more Confederate flags being flown around in their parking lot. It's 20, and it just like hit me like, for real, they still do that?
Oh yeah.
Right. Like that's just normal everyday life.
Man.
I told Melissa earlier, I said that's one of those spaces in sports I never really got into because I never felt like being a spectator that was safe for me.
No.
It's not our scene, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's huge that they did that because that's almost symbolic to NASCAR. It's almost that same symbolism. You think NASCAR, you think Confederate flag, you think all the Southerners that go.
Well,
yeah.
Heck yeah, that's
Budweiser Confederate flag in NASCAR. Like that's my vision, you know. So it's just very big that happened.
So you're gonna have, you know, the NFL's got to. It's about time. There needed to be a reckoning for these things. It's about stinking time. People are going to be upset, but you know, my personal viewpoint is why are we worried about upsetting people who are destructive?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, if you are a destructive, toxic human, then like why we try to make you feel comfortable?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Say that, sis. Say that. Say that. So much more.
Before wrapping up, I wanted to also just give a little girl power out there to Natasha Cloud.
Yes, she spoke out today. Yes.
Yeah,
and I posted on Girl Chat, if you guys saw our stories a while back, of Natasha Cloud actually protesting at a rally, being active and being outspoken in her stance for everything. So yeah, continue with that on the girl power.
Yeah, and so she basically has said that all Black and white athletes need to basically be ready to give up pay, to lose endorsements for social injustice and to make a change. She also is one of the first. She signed Converse for Converse basketball, so she's like the new first women's female face of Converse basketball too. So I'm happy.
Big ups to Natasha Cloud, man.
She is so dope.
_Cloud9. That's where you can follow her on Instagram. If you guys don't know, _Cloud9. That is her handle. Yeah, she's dope for that. She called them out. Let's see what they do, because that paycheck, honey, that's a rough one. I felt like they should have done that when it was Kaepernick, and they didn't do the right thing on that. So we're gonna see what this does.
Hey, Cassandra, where can everybody find you on Instagram and Facebook for your Sportsnista?
Yeah, so it's _Sportsnista. Primarily at Instagram. I'm in and out on Facebook and Twitter. It's just the Sportsnista there, but got a little underscore on Instagram. And it's going to be an interesting next couple of months. I've been podcasting streaming a little more as of late. That's where the content is. But, athletes are available right now. So we're still getting, talking to folks. And I may or may not have a show up my sleeve. So next 30 days.
We will be on the lookout.
Yes, we will.
Rocking something a little bit different.
Okay. Well, in the meantime, they can catch you on Levels.
Yes, catch me on Levels.
On
Facebook Live usually on Wednesdays at 5:30. And also I write for lvsportsbiz.com.
Yep.
Yeah.
Shout out to Alex Mel over at LV Sports Biz.
And shout out to Mike Dixon at Vegas Sports Daily.
Shout out.
We love Mike around here too.
Man, the bad little cousin. The knucklehead little cousin,
Knucklehead cousin who you can't get in touch with because sometimes his phone works, sometimes it don't. I'm sorry.
He had a birthday coming up. Mike. It reminds me, like you getting a portable charger coming your way, dude. You really are.
We're both cancers, so I keep my
phone. But we do some partnership podcasts. Live streams rather on Fridays with Ramblin' Ralph of Mayweather Promotions, and so Fridays at 5 and 5:30 we'll be talking boxing.
Nice, very good. And then tonight you're a guest. Shout out to Jose Vellante, second debut week of his show.
Straight Bet Sports, 9 o'clock. I am gonna eat at some.
It's a Cassandra Wednesday.
It is Cassandra Wednesday. We're just so happy to have you on.
I'm on a world tour, and I was like, I guess, Hey, listen, when my people call, my answer is yes.
Well, I appreciate it. I really do. I really appreciate you reaching out,
Thank
joining
I
us
you.
miss
today.
you guys, man. Like, you
I
know,
miss
when
you
the
too.
world is right again, you know, we're going to have to meet up for some guava juice.
We are. We are. I'm slowly getting out the house. I'm actually proud of myself. I've actually taken big leaps and bounds
Hey,
on the outings. Yeah, so I'm getting there. I'm getting there. But it was such a pleasure to have you on. Thank you
Thank you.
again
Thank
for all
you,
your
Cassandra.
information.
We
Alright.
Keeping
appreciate
us
it.
up to date and current because you're our media representation out there right now. And you know, you get the access that we don't get, and we appreciate you sharing that
Happy
with
to
us.
help. Happy to help.
Yes, yes.
All right, ladies, I'll be
Thank
back.
you.
Oh, thank you, Sam. Cassandra, so dope. Sportsnista.
So dope. I love it. And shout out
Sportsnista.
to my-
Sportsnista.
Yeah, shout out to Let the Ball Bounce. Donnell chimed in, and you know we do miss Quan. We'll have to maybe try and get a Taco Tuesday or a pizza day one day with Quan, and just keep our social distance, but enjoy some time.
Yeah, I'm with that too. Yeah, for sure. We thank everybody for checking in. Tara McCree checked in. Stephanie checked in. Thank you so much for everyone that tuned in. Whose names I didn't see. I don't have my tablet to check the live, but thank you so much for tuning in. And next week we got another show, so be ready for us. We are still doing our social distancing, but it's all love, and we want everyone to stay safe out there.
It's all love.
It's all about the love. I love the shirt. Yep.
I love that we both had pink on today too. We're like twins. We always wore the same color.
Oh yeah, I have my pink on today. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Get them. I don't know what it is. Just kind of connection here. Yeah. So thank you everybody for tuning in.
We'll catch you next week.
All righty. Fingers. Stay safe out there, you guys. Bye-bye.